Get pumped for Kino, pure Kino. Welcome back to another episode of the Harbor Podcast. I'm your host, the Kino Cowboy. What's boolin', boys? I got Sam, I got Scott, and we're talking about Bergman because we're continuing our summer series, and this one is kind of different from our last few, but it's technically a summer flick. I mean, shit, it's in the name. It's called Summer with Monica, and it's a coming of age story that tackles and disassembles the tropes before they were even created. So, yeah, let's get into it. First, I want to say just real quick, what's your favorite Bergman movie before we even start?
I guess I'll start. This is my third one I've seen, so I'm actually not all that well versed. I've seen this, fair. Persona, and Seventh Seal, and I would probably say Seventh Seal has stuck with me the most. Part of that's because I watched it for the first time as a teenager, and it struck me like, avant-garde European cinema. Changed my view of what cinema can be in a lot of ways. What about you, Sam?
I'd probably say the same because I didn't go into this like wanting to re-rank my Bergman movies. And I mean, I've seen more, but one of the first ones I saw was Wild Strawberries and then Seventh Seal in the film history class I took in college. And Seventh Seal just, it sticks with you forever. I mean, Persona's great. I don't think Bergman can make a bad movie. There are ones that are just not as good as others. But I'd probably say Seventh Seal as well, just for its imagery and just what it brings to
I can't even
theology and
like,
stuff.
Of course, being
you want a hipster answer.
Yeah, you want a hipster answer, but Seventh Seal is the shit. So that's my answer too, dude.
If you ask me like, what's your favorite Tarantino? I'm just like Pulp Fiction. If I'm being honest, I know you like Inglourious Basterds. So like, Pulp Fiction.
But no, Pulp Fiction is like, I mean, it's one of his best films.
I'd say Kill Bill there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
good thing. I'm just saying he's one of those directors who's like, I mean, nobody asks, and there's certain directors nobody says AI is their favorite Spielberg or something like that, or Warhorse. I don't mean a lot of Warhorse guys. I don't mean a lot of people who've seen Warhorse. But we're talking about summer.
We're talking about Summer with Monica,
1953.
Yeah, 53. We'll get into some of the shit that comes with a movie in 53. Incredible.
Is this the oldest film we've podcasted? I mean, this is the one I've been on.
Yeah, probably. I think.
What do you do, like
that or Seven Samurai? No, this is older though. This is a year older than Seven Samurai.
Yeah, by a bit. Yeah.
So this movie follows a young lad, 18, 19. He's kind of sick of some shit, and it's pretty like it starts pretty quickly. Like he's like in a bar basically, and Monica comes up and asks for like a light on her cigarette, and then she just hits the ground running with like, hey, we should leave town together and go on an adventure and shit. And he's like half-assed like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever. And then she's like, we should go to a movie and stuff. And he's like, okay. And I guess that's how easy it was to pick up girls in the 50s. Not really.
Yeah, no, I kind of watched that. The first scene of this is like, this is never, is this the opening to a fucking porno? Like how easy this opens?
Well, it's more like she picked him up,
Yeah.
And that does happen. I mean, it can happen.
He's a good-looking Norwegian, or not Norwegian,
Swedish,
Nordic Swedish lad.
It just immediately, that this chick is like, oh, what?
She's strong and determined.
Well, yeah, but like she's just like
she's trouble.
Yeah, there's something
wants to do whatever,
her.
Really.
Yeah.
So they go on some dates and immediately connect. And at first, their relationship seems pretty shallow. And honestly, for a lot of it, it is pretty shallow. Like it's just like, okay,
well, it's teen love.
I know.
Yeah,
and it goes along, and it's like it starts pretty conventional with like frivolous teen love, just hanging out, doing shit,
Well, and to like every movie, I think there's stuff that obviously happened behind the scenes that we don't see. Well, not behind the scenes, but like not in the moments that we see on film. Like I was thinking, like how'd they call each other? There wasn't no scene, where she gave him his number. Like there's probably stuff where they exchange more about them because
time in this movie is kind of played with and very fast. I mean, it's 90 minutes for an entire summer. There's a scene, for example, where Monica is in Harry, the main character, his apartment, which is his dad's apartment, and the dad shows up and is like, you must be Monika. So
so they've talked about
her.
Yeah.
It's a known quantity at that point.
It just seems like it's gone by fast and like they're doing a whole lot, but they're really not. Like it's just Bergman takes out like the less boring parts, you know?
No, I get it, but like it's still pretty happening pretty quick for
for sure.
For what they're about to embark on.
Yeah.
And like
it is all sudden.
And it's for a 50s film, it's pretty crazy because like Monica's like her dad's like an alcoholic and he like beats his kids and shit, and like she's sexually harassed, like kind of like assaulted
at work,
at work and shit.
Yeah,
like,
literally lifted by the breast up to like something.
Yeah,
and
like,
I was like, whoa.
Those are pretty heavy themes, and like kind of movies that would follow suit like in this kind of like teen romance kind of genre wouldn't touch on these subjects, at least for most of them, for a while, like.
Or
Closer
if they did,
to the end of the 20th century, it would be more commonplace, but not in fucking 53.
And it would be exploitative for the purpose of making money off exploitation. This was trying to be, Bergman always had a narrative about, character studies and stuff like that.
You're a woman working in a stockroom with men in post-war Sweden.
Yeah,
you're gonna get harassed. It's that sounds terrible and callous, but like
no, more like you're a woman in general.
Yeah, you're a woman in general in post-war.
It's awful.
You're a woman in 1953 on the planet Earth.
That's wild, and I of course can relate to feeling like pent up in that little apartment she's in with her family and shit.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, she obviously lacks critical thinking.
No, she's dumb.
Yeah,
Which from a behind the scenes thing, I find interesting because despite being like 15 years older, I think Bergman was in a relationship with Monika, or the actress. I mean,
and so
it's like your girlfriend's playing. I think he made this movie for her as like a vehicle for her, but then he made her like a vapid, dumb. Sort of not even dumb, just like dumb.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I'd say carefree.
Yeah, carefree,
like, lost and wandering,
but also naive.
Yeah,
she's 18, there's a bit of she doesn't know. She just wants to get out of there. She's sick of it.
I don't know if I'd necessarily say dumb because like as good as Bergman is and was at that time, it still falls into like women are always hysterical type thing. Like her mom just seemed like oblivious and just fine with everything that was happening with her house falling apart and her husband being drunk all the time. And Monika, like, she's smart and she's like seductive almost in a way, and then she's just hysterical at times. But still, like, Bergman was doing stuff at the time where he was making women like complete rounded characters, and even if that still falls into that cliche that at the time they were viewed as hysterical or whatever is what I was thinking.
Yeah, she's certainly more of an interesting character than most characters from American 50 films,
for sure.
So yeah, obviously the thought of like going off randomly, like on spur of the moment, like spending the summer with some girl on like a boat, like adventuring, that's right up my alley. That sounds like a fun fantasy, and so
summer
like
vibes for sure.
Yeah, so that kind of concept is my thing as fuck, and I like that they go off together, even if it's a stupid idea. But also, I'm not 18, I'm 27, so but
well, I think also like there's a lot of tradition and just part of that world that like we wouldn't understand because we don't live over in Europe during the 50s. So I think there's something to be said about like when, like, because work and school and everything came in seasons, and people would take whole summers off to go and do stuff. So it was not entirely arbitrary or unheard of to go away for a whole summer. Like,
no, I get it.
People still do it in certain places. I don't know about Sweden.
It was just
he was the quitting the work too.
Yeah, it was the quitting the work, which is insane.
It didn't take much for him to just be like, yeah, fuck it, I'm done.
Yeah. You don't go against your elders or your bosses and stuff, the hierarchy of things. You don't just quit, like you have, there's all that stuff still. And we, still have that in corporate America. But, if he had like taken some time up, saved it, it could have been different. But no, there's that whole, which Bergman does a lot too. He does like this whole, young blood versus old tradition. He does that a lot in his films, and he challenges the perception of, society at the time of whatever he's making with a lot of his characters.
Right.
So-
and this is the first generation of adults you see in the post-war period.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he would have been too young to fight. So this is the first.
Yeah.
Because that would have been 8
So there's
years.
gonna
So
be
he
like-
would have been like 10. So this is the first adults that come out of that.
Yeah. So there's gonna be like rising up and changing of everything, and
then of course your father's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Everyone
I
can
get it.
become an
But
alcoholic.
and of course,
Doesn't mean it doesn't excuse anything.
we can all relate to wanting to escape the responsibilities in the real world and shit, but like those actions have consequences. And normally in these kind of wanderlust kind of movies, they don't really touch on the consequences. It's kind of just like a carefree kind of thing, and it just keeps going, and it's a fun time. But
like versus Dazed and Confused. Like,
Yeah, which we'll talk
But
about
anyway.
next week.
yeah.
But there's something I want to go back and I don't have the film history knowledge to get into it. So maybe one of you guys, because you guys have seen more classic, and by that I mean, quite frankly, black and white films than I have. Before they go to their Eden, they do go on that date to the cinema to see a movie.
Oh,
And
right. Yeah.
it's your early cinema talkie romance movie that's incredibly melodramatic with swelling music. You actually see Monika
Crying, yeah.
with that kind of
Yeah.
hysteria and women crying and very intense. I think Harry's like playing with his soda straw or something. I don't know what he's doing.
He's holding her hand like awkwardly, like she moves her hand up while she's crying, and he's just like holding her arm.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm here for
and messing with his jacket.
Poontang.
Yeah, pretty much. But I feel like this movie is a reaction to that era of filmmaking that I have almost zero knowledge of.
Yeah,
Definitely.
We haven't really brought it up, but I think before cinema was more developed as an art form, and you could say the same with anything. You can certainly say the same with like television and the explosion in good storytelling in the past 20 or so years. Like it really relied on those simple archetypes, whether it be romantic or like good versus evil and like very morality play westerns, melodramas. And I guess on a larger point, Bergman was wondering if his own art form was corrupting the youth, which is a hell of a thing to wonder. But I don't know if you guys have seen many movies of that era, because I wish I had, but also I don't, because I'd probably be as bored as Harry.
Bergman came from what was this, Vince Film Industry, the studio, and he had studied under several just people that were making just by the book studio movies. But the people he worked closest with were novelists, people that were writing books and stories and stuff, and all of his screenwriting partners were writing books that he would turn into films, and he always wanted to subvert like what was normally being seen. So yeah, because when he originally, I watched the little introduction before I watched it on the Criterion disc. He was talking about how nobody in the studio wanted to make the movie because nobody would watch it. No one wanted to watch kids like that, because all the people that were seeing movies were older. And he said, well, this isn't for the older generation. It's for, the kids. It's for what's coming. And so, yeah, he said he managed to haggle as Vince Film Industry to give him 6 weeks to go to the archipelago, whatever. And they wouldn't see him for 6 weeks. They'd come back with a finished film. And it happened. So, yeah, he was always rivaling
fully ahead of his time.
Yeah, he was always rivaling what he was seeing and what he was being told to do, and doing what he wanted to do, with the people that were also thinking the same thing. He just, he got in the good graces of the studios by, being, assistant directors, assistant camera op, and people saw his talent and just went from there.
That alone makes him a hero in my eyes. Shit.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
Well, he also had a lot of, did he have Sam, since you know so much about him apparently, he had a theatrical background, like a live theater background. Was that before or after his cinema career?
Both. Like he was doing it
concurrent
at the same time, yeah. And then when he retired from film in like I don't want to get wrong, but like the mid 80s. And then he did exclusively theatrical productions after that because he didn't have like the patience and, health to go through with film. And then he like in 2003 made Saraband, which was his last theatrical movie. So he wanted to end on that.
I didn't know he was directing that late. That's the thing. I feel like theater's definitely a lot more open to that sort of experimentation than certainly studio filmmaking. Which is,
Bergman was involved with films and theatrical plays for like 7 decades. Like
fucking crazy.
Dude spanned his like the only time that he wasn't making stuff was like obviously like when he was in school. So like, in his early life, but then like up until his death, he was just it was art, it was his lifetime. It was his life, his passion.
And that's something that frustrates me a lot about a lot of Hollywood and studio filmmaking, speaking very broadly here, is sometimes I feel like, because you said Bergman worked with novelists and stuff, and I feel like so many screenwriters or producers only seem to know screenplays or only seem to know American cinema and that story. And I know why they stick with certain like 3-act structure, and you got to have an all is lost moment in the third act and all that sort of, save the cat screenwriting book sort of things. But I even found it like, okay, we went to the same school together, Sam, like with filmmaking students and stuff, that there's a lot of them seem to have not read a lot or have not seemed to have read very widely outside of maybe books or like blogs on filmmaking. And it leads to this, and I even have the same problem with a lot of contemporary American literature and like MFA sort of writing,
where everything just feels the same.
Everything feels the same, and it feels like people aren't getting enough outside influences.
You're just swapping. You're swapping like moments, events, and characters, and you're just following like the same, structure.
Well, and I think there's something to be said with him working with playwrights, because I think about a lot that, like, we're all sci-fi fans here. Like, the amount you can do with, say, a novel in sci-fi is limitless. You can have insane things, but in cinema, science fiction, this is improved, but like science fiction is almost synonymous with like Star Wars or like spaceships or exploded or like certain kind of lowest common denominator art. I mean, stuff like the Forever War on Amazon or something.
Tomorrow War,
and which I don't know if it'll point to any of that, but Bergman was breaking out of his mold early, and I suggest that other people do the same.
It's very purposeful that the movie they're watching is American and like
we're dumb sometimes, man. I hate are you gonna have the thing under my name again that says Scott the expat? But as somebody who lives abroad, like there is some truth to that. I hate the America bad, Europe good pseudo-intellectualism that some Americans here seem to spout. I'm like, shut the hell up. But I mean, I think there's truth to that. Like we're simple. We're kind of like freight trains. We go really fast and powerful in like one direction at a time.
Well, it's like America thinks they're the world police or like the only country in the world, and then like,
and we are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. We are.
That's fair.
You better not speak ill, dog. Or I'll turn this podcast off.
Next, the new intro for the podcast is just a globe with just America spread out.
Yeah, there's a drone hovering above you right now, Sam. If you say the wrong words, so you watch out.
There's the laser right there.
Yeah, sure.
This is for obviously in America, sexuality was not explored in film that much at this time, but
at least not in any place other than a drive-in.
We have a nude scene of an 18-year-old girl and her breasts getting touched and felt up on, and it's very sensual, and they're next to the beach and stuff. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I thought it was nice how it what did I say about it? It was very passionate and romantic and like sexual discovery more than just being grotesque,
which
and overused.
Reminds me,
and
I can tell Wes Anderson was influenced by this movie with Moonrise Kingdom.
Yeah,
and it's the same way in Moonrise Kingdom, where it's not weird that these 12-year-olds are like on the beach, like he's like feeling up her breast. It's very similar, actually.
Yeah,
and, it just goes in a different direction, obviously.
Well, it even plays in the performance because Harry like the way he reaches his hand out to her breast is almost like stop motion.
Yeah.
He's so unsure of what to do. And honestly, if you think about it, 19 years old, that could, I mean, he's a good looking guy, but that could have been the first breast he ever really felt. You have no idea.
Probably was.
Yeah.
I mean, in 53, could have been.
Because I mean, he seemed kind of like shocked by his luck at the beginning of like going out with this girl.
Dude went out, yeah.
I mean, even the bar, like even the old men that were drinking at the bar, which is like, I guess love is in the air.
Yeah.
You know, I guess it is spring.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not jaded yet.
Yeah.
It's just like
those war-torn fucking sailors.
Rewatching this, I forgot like how early on into their summer adventure, like she's like, "Yeah, I think I'm pregnant," and he's like, "Oh shit, okay." And then
very early.
They're like, whatever, keep on. We're just gonna ignore that and keep on our adventure. Fuck it. Even though it's like slowly creeping into the back of his mind, it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to figure something out. But like for a while, they're just carefree. I'm like, damn, I'd be fucking shitting my ass if.
Well, I think that goes for it because like Harry always wanted like a successful, like, you know, we see that later. Harry always wanted a successful life and everything, and he was just wanting time away at the moment, whereas, you know, Monica was just completely wandering the whole, you know, what she would do forever. She didn't have an idea of, you know, the finish line. And
yeah, definitely.
And that also is a big part of, you know, why the movie was made the way it was, like, you know, to highlight wandering over just constant, just go to school, go to work, get married, retire, you know, just that.
Yeah, but
she doesn't want to think about any of it really. No. But even during this time, he's like talking about how he wants to be an engineer and stuff. And
yeah, he has the plan for his future.
Yeah.
Well, and I find it a very interesting role reversal because I feel like in most movies and in real life,
the man
would be like, "You're not really pregnant. Let's get Mari on this. Let's, you know," they would be like, okay, well, do you need an operation? Do we need to take care of this?
And you know, instinctually as a mother, she should want to protect her child and do whatever it takes, but she didn't give a fuck. She's drinking liquor and shit, like partying.
Yeah, that's the thing. How aware were we of fetal alcohol syndrome? Surely we had to have known something.
But surely that just 2 and 2 put together.
All right, and they were smoking too, so
yeah, smoking and drinking.
Oh, smoking. They might have not cared though. Smoking back then.
No, I mean, of course they didn't care. They only stopped caring recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Even our parents' generation, like, I had a friend's dad tell me like the only Surgeon General warning it had is like if you were at risk of heart disease or at risk of being pregnant, and I was neither of those. He was like, I was like a 14-year-old boy.
It's like, imagine that now, like how many movies you see nowadays with people just smoking in them. It's not many.
So, I mean, it's almost stamped out. It's I don't know. Is there legislation or rules or at least MPAA guidelines?
There kind of is with like all the funding and stuff they get from like, you know, the Stop Out Smoking, whoever those people are.
Yeah, you can't smoke in Disney movies or Marvel or Star Wars.
Yeah, no Disney movie. A lot of big studios, like, I don't know. I haven't seen anyone smoke in a Universal film.
Can't mention Tibet.
Well, now
Dominic
Disney
Toretto
said,
just lights up like a stogie.
Disney, when they first implemented, Disney was like, well, as long if it's by a villain and done in a like a very like gross manner to show how gross smoking is fine. But like they haven't followed up on that, so I think they were just trying to save face. So
yeah, and also if you're an animator, why would you include bothering?
I'm not saying animating,
or even just in general, why would you include doing it? Just like, oh, we got to edit this out later.
I don't know.
Like it.
Cruella DeVille smokes that long ass cigarette, but
breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah, it's kind of like
with the extension.
I guess it'd be weird for like a 20-something to be smoking that in the movie, but she was not smoking anything. I don't think.
Okay,
I didn't watch it.
I had
no
better shit to
whatsoever. Yeah, literally me in the bathroom. Better things to
do.
Yeah. I thought it was funny that well, not funny. I just thought it relative that I'm pretty sure Harry's dad had IBS. So.
Really? What makes you think that?
He had
IBS
stomach problems
expert.
the whole time. He's like, he
That's
had to leave the meeting early because his stomach was cramping, and he said,
Yeah.
"I'll just be in here with my stomach pains, and it's nothing I can't get used to." And then at the end of the movie, I was like, they spent the whole summer gone. I was like, what about his dad? Like, because I think about my dad, and I was like, is his dad dead? He's just dead in the hospital, and then they come back
No.
and he's perfectly fine. So pretty
Yeah.
sure dude's just got a unknown at the time IBS, and that it hit me.
It's just wild to me how like quickly she gets over. She's like, yeah, I think I might be pregnant, and then just proceeds to not give a fuck. That like blows my mind, dude.
It almost took me out of the movie a bit. There were times where she was so petulant and catty. It was almost like, Jesus Christ, we get it. Monica's a child and she's not ready for motherhood. That's a lot of. I mean, I've met some teen mothers, and it's not fun.
You yourself were a teen mother.
I took environmental science senior year. There were 2 teen mothers in that class. Two different pregnant women in that. I took the stupid people science.
I did too.
I took it after I also took the physics.
It was so embarrassingly easy that it was like annoying to be in.
It was annoying to be in.
Anyway.
But that's a different situation entirely. But yeah. I feel like Monica would definitely be an environmental science and not a physics student. Harry would be the physics student.
I want to talk about that fucking random guy who just starts fucking up their boat.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Well, I think that was
okay. So he was not another character in the movie. He wasn't.
Yeah, he was. I think he was Lael, the guy that was at the house, like the beat that just in one hit just knocks out Harry and takes his hat. Because
was it that same guy?
I want to say it is. I couldn't tell either, because when they're at the like little dance thing on the little island, they Harry says, "Is that Lael?" Like when he walks by. Or maybe he said is that another character? But I want to say,
is that Lael when they go to a different island on the archipelago, and at the like tiki part, not tiki part.
Yeah, and then he just like, I don't know why else anyone would just randomly do that to just random people they saw on the beach. And I want to say it was him. If it wasn't, I don't know, but it would make sense that he would be at the beginning of the movie being like, "You're not going to date Monica." At the middle of the movie, tried to break them up like that, and then at the end of the movie, he's seen leaving. So
I was just like, Jesus Christ, dude. He's like,
yeah, that was very surprising.
Jumps right
to
in,
me.
and starts lighting it on fire and shit.
It's another example of like how stupid you are as a youth, because you don't realize like that could potentially strand them on this island and kill them.
Right.
If
and they could have killed him. Shit. Yeah. If this was made today, they would have killed him.
I thought he did die, and then they pull him up out of the water, and he's fine. I was recording a Snapchat, and I was like, "This dude is dead as fuck." He's just like floating on the water, and then he picks him up. I was like, "Oh, okay, never mind."
If it was made today, he would have probably been dead, and it would have been like a weird like.
I was
no empathy. Like, he's dead. Let's move on.
I was fully expecting that, because there's a moment in another Bergman film I was watching when I got the set that someone just gets shot dead. And then it's like at the end of the movie, but I'm like, that came out of nowhere, And so I was expecting another Bergman, just like, yeah, one of the main guys just kills a dude. And I was like, okay.
Well, you also have to understand, this is before MRIs were a thing, so we have no idea what that character's dealing with 10 years from now.
Not after being smashed against the head several times.
It's kind of like how Batman supposedly doesn't kill people, but then he'll like he'll rip out their elbow.
He just sends them hospital bills for a lifetime.
And it's a conspiracy because his dad worked for the Gotham hospital, so we know he has money in there.
But no, I was going to say that like that was my only detracting comment I had, was that scene, because like even by like today's standards, I would think at that standards, like that action was just awful. That fight sequence was just
I can't even like stunt, dude. The I literally, while I was watching it, the punches they were throwing, like the shit they were doing, it literally reminded me of Ski Mask Kid versus Midman fight from Moonman. Like, it was that corny. I was like, I'm trying my best to take this fight seriously, but man, they did not choreograph this well.
It was hard. You could tell.
None of them knew how to throw a punch.
It's
you
so
couldn't
funny.
believe that any of them were related to Vikings hundreds of years ago.
It wasn't choreographed, and with the way that cameras were so bulky back then, I mean, there was no way you were getting like close-up shots or like counter angles to make it look better.
You couldn't Born Ultimatum
yeah
cut into it.
God, I would hope not. They just didn't.
Harry
You
gets
know,
a pin, stabs it into his leg.
they were just like, we have to have this for the story, but it's not going to be good. And
It was,
like,
but even that was added to it because it was just like dumb kids slap playground fighting.
I guess.
Yeah,
I guess. Although honestly, I do attribute it to like a lack of just.
There was a lack of understanding
what to do.
I mean, shit, like how many action films were there like pre-50s, really?
Right.
Like,
and how many drama students do you think know how to throw a punch?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They were all avoiding going to the war by going to pee on the stage.
It's funny to me, like certain things in this movie that would like, if they were done today, we, at least Scott and I, we would roll our eyes. Like when they're like sitting huddled together and they're like sharing the same cigarette and it's like supposed to be like romantic. If that was done today and not in like a 50s black and white Bergman movie, that would be corny as fuck.
Yeah, there was one moment where after Monica gets up and she makes like the pot of coffee and everything and goes to wake up Harry. Harry wakes up and he's got his watch on his hand, his belt on, and his shoes on. And it's like, this motherfucker's psychotic. I was worried about his mental health at that point. I was like, who sleeps like that just fine?
He had his shoes on too?
Yeah. And then he runs out.
He fell asleep, cuddling or banging or whatever they were doing.
No, they were not banging.
They weren't not banging, yet. Not at that point.
Not at that point.
Because that's yeah, can't show that. But so I guess like the turning point is when they get kind of desperate for food, and she goes to that farm to like steal some shit and gets caught.
So
and these fucking assholes treat her like she's like a fucking piece of shit felon. Like she was just hungry. Like they could have been like
rich.
Well, no, they were. Here's the thing. I kind of contest that because they sat her down and I mean they were food. Pretentious about it, but they were offering to feed her, but they were just like
they were offering to feed her while calling the cops.
Yeah,
that's bullshit.
That's not unseen in film. I mean, but like you have a trespasser coming on your place, like even if they're emaciated, that doesn't mean you care. No, she could be unhealthy. They could think that someone had kidnapped her, stolen her, that she got lost, like fell off a boat or something. The next logical thing to do is like care for the woman, call the police so they can find her way home.
Like logically in real life. Like somebody's on your property stealing your shit, some random person, you don't know what that is. I mean, hell.
No, the guy was like, "Oh no, you're spending a night in jail. Yeah. So have fun with that." Like he wasn't.
No, he didn't care, but the women did.
Yeah,
barely.
He was Republican.
I don't know. The movie wasn't about them, so.
No, that's bullshit to me. I was like, man, she's obviously just hungry. Like, just feed this little young girl.
Yeah, but
they don't know. They don't know like why she's hungry or like what her situation. They don't know anything about her. You're taking. You're bringing information that you have as an audience member.
I'm saying this is me watching the movie. This isn't me like pointing out a flaw.
No,
I'm saying like if it was me in this situation, I'd be like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah. But they're from like ultra different classes and there's a whole lot to it. There was a whole lot to it, obviously.
Anyway, it's bullshit, and she runs off with roast in her hand, pretty savage, purposely like a hunk of meat, like really like primal.
Yeah, she's like running through the woods. That part reminded me of fucking Midman running through the woods in Moon Men.
Yeah.
Keep bringing it back to that.
Yeah, you can see I'm a true patrician. Anyway.
Yeah.
Bergman inspired.
That's when she finally breaks, is when she gets on the boat and is like, fuck this.
Yeah, super hysterical.
And then that just sets off a chain reaction. And now he's like, fuck, I got to figure something out. We got to get married. We got to do this. I got to raise a child.
Well, that was another moment where I just felt like I started like, because you go from the beginning of the movie, like, you know, sort of admiring Monica. And then like by the end, obviously you don't want to like Monica. And I was sitting there at that moment. She's like, I can't live on like this. I can't keep doing all of this. You know, I just want to go back. And then she's like, but I don't want to go back. I was thinking, how hard is it to just go to a different city? Like, you don't have to go back home. You don't have to.
It's true.
Like, you don't have to go back home. You don't have to go. You could even leave the country. You start a new job. Like, she was treating it like she has to like keep coasting like
Right.
nomad land style, just go from different place to different place for the rest of her life, running away. She was running away from, life.
Childhood. Yeah.
But I was just like, if you think about it, and I was like, even in the 50s, this isn't like arbitrary. Like, if you don't like where you're living, move. Like, at one point, I was just expecting Harry to just be like, hey, yeah, we don't have to go back,
Well, they
to
don't have any money. First
Stockholm.
of all.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have money after they got rid of everything on the boat anyway.
Well, there's like, are they in Stockholm or are they in
They're
like
in Stockholm.
They're not like a suburb. I know they're in the area.
Because
where else? Because I don't know the economy of post-war Sweden, and I mean, it certainly wasn't in the post-war. It wasn't like France where it was just completely razed to the ground.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'm sure there was some.
I can't think of any battles that happened in Sweden. I'm not saying there weren't any, but my point is, like, what was the economy like then? Because it certainly, I'm sure it didn't have the economic boom that the United States did in the 50s. And if you were a working class person, not educated, where would you go other than Stockholm?
Yeah. Well, see, like the thing was, I guess they could have got money from his dad because he was kind of more well off, like.
Is he though?
Kinda.
Or is he just?
I don't know.
I mean, his aunt came and took care of everything.
I
He
mean,
was in a
'cause
boating club, for
I
Christ's
feel like
sake.
they're like working
Boats
class,
were very
lower,
hard to
lower middle class. I guess boats were hard to come, but also, like, I don't know. Is it one of those, if you live in Stockholm, a lot of people have boats?
Well,
I don't think so.
A lot of people have cars here.
Yeah.
I mean,
true.
obviously, his dad didn't help him out because him and Monica were living in a little apartment together. And
Yeah.
like,
Well,
we'll
he's
get to
at the
that.
end. He didn't want his help by his dad. Yeah.
We'll get to that. But like, so finally, they're going back towards reality, aka their town, and
Which
as they're entering, dude, as they're entering back into reality, there's like ominous music as they start to approach, and I love that, and like the music right there.
I was gonna say that all the shots are great, like all the boat transition shots when they're traveling to the island or when they're traveling back home. Like, besides like the very close up shots of Monica and Harry that you get like 2 or 3 shots of Harry where he's reacting to something and then it completely fades out behind him and it's just his reaction. And Monica gets like one of those shots. Besides that, like the scenery in the boat shots is just great.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Stockholm is that appealing in the autumn.
You mean in the spring? Whatever.
No, it's the end of summer.
In the autumn.
Well, it doesn't matter, but I wonder where they keep getting gas from for the boat all the time to like.
I think they didn't move the boat a lot, and they just I always assumed they just brought like gas cans with them.
I mean, boats would have gas cans on them, yeah.
Yeah, I know. So. Anyway,
I honestly don't think they went too far because, like, if you could look at a map and see like where they were, there was probably like little islands around, and they just hopped and walked across them.
Sure.
And then just went back home.
Yeah, which makes it even more childish when you think of it like that,
because they're not going like
a kid when they run away from home, but they're really just in the backyard for a little bit,
or they're like at a neighbor's or a family member's house, like down the street.
Yeah, so they re-enter reality, and there's a time jump, and she has her child, and he shows up in his best suit. And she's just like eating like cheese and like drinking milk and shit, like acting like she's like, "What's up, dude? You want to see the baby or what? Whatever."
Oh yeah, at the hospital.
She acts like it's like no big deal. It's like, hey, there's a kid in there if you want to see it. If not, whatever. But and
I also
did a nice little window shot there when he's like looking through the window and then it fades to black again.
This is back in the days where the father was not in the hospital holding your hand.
Yeah.
They wanted you nowhere near that operating maternity ward. He's like at work with the other machinists, and they call him like, "Hey, it's a girl." And they're like, "All right, finish your shift." And it's like,
no, actually, he says
he lets them go home, but it's like
he says go on because we don't want you missing anything.
But then he's like, "I'll see you in the morning." Like
sober.
Yeah, he's like, don't get drunk with the baby tonight. Weird.
She goes
what a weird time.
So many men are just like, oh, I got another child.
And So after this scene, we get like a prolonged scene of them in the apartment, and like the baby's crying. He's trying to get him to sleep. He's trying to study. He's trying to do this. And that is like, I could tell that this movie, at least I think, influenced Eraserhead too, because
I was
like,
literally about to say that because I was
like it's
sitting
like
there,
the same
black
exact
and white,
shit.
the baby's crying. I was like, no, I don't want to watch Eraserhead after I watch this.
It's like the most like, it seemed like direct like influence. And crying babies in films always give me massive anxiety. So I was like, wow, this is doing the exact same thing to me.
Why? Because you fear fatherhood?
No, just because like it's fucking aggravating.
And he fears being a baby again. He's
and just like stressful. Like he's trying his best to study and stuff, and like Monica doesn't want to do anything. She's like laying in bed, not giving a shit and stuff, and it's all about her now.
And
so, the whole movie is about her.
Yeah, I know.
Right. Yeah, her name.
There's a lot about having a baby at that time too. It takes a lot out of you because I mean, think about the medicine that they didn't have, and
but she's very selfish.
Exhausted. Well, yeah,
incredibly selfish.
And
can I add just a very small observation?
Yeah,
when he's trying to study, just adding to the point of like how these two characters are like infant idiot Romeo and Juliet types. He's talking about taking night school for engineering, and I know our engineering knowledge was less back then, but he's studying like the Pythagorean theorem, which is something I learned in 9th grade.
Yeah.
So it almost is like, I almost wonder, is that a fantasy too? Is your idea of economic upward mobility just as much of a fantasy as anything that happened that summer in your Eden? You can't return to Eden. That's the message. You can't do it. You can't go back to Eden.
I think that Scott, that brings up a good point that like the whole our children will know more than we'll ever know thing. Like we know so much more now than any of those characters ever had known. So like,
you mean like just in terms of like raw data?
No, like knowing Pythagorean theorem, and whenever we studied it, and he's like
like
adult.
Fucking 8th grade.
Yeah, like the amount of knowledge out there in the world. Yeah,
well, there's too much.
There's probably not like people now, especially in America, are generally much more stupid, but that's different.
Well, you're less ignorant, more stupid, maybe.
Yeah,
depends.
Those dirty speeds.
Here's the fucking
don't know nothing.
She like wishful thinking. You think she would like, settle down, become a good mother, realize, this is her life now. And instead, as soon as he goes on his first work assignment and the baby's with the aunt or grandma or whatever, she's like, back to smoking and dancing and jumping around and singing.
And sleeping with other people.
Yeah, and like he's gone on one work assignment and he comes back and it's like the most brutal like shot of his like realization of what he's like walked in on.
At that moment, because I was hoping, I was like, I was really hoping things were gonna work out. And then I remember I was watching a Bergman movie, which always just he's like, he has this ability like few directors to capture real life magically. Like that movie is just real life. This is real stuff that happens to real people. And then it's sad when you see it in a movie, like the ending, but it's real life. I mean, that shit happens. And then, he doesn't hold back either. Like, I think I just made up a quote. It's like Bergman's like, you want a good, happy, relaxed summer movie? Fuck you. This is real life. Here's the ending. Like,
I feel like the Seventh Seal has a happier ending than this movie, with everybody marching on to death. That's more optimistic.
At that point.
That's somehow more optimistic than
Harry didn't accept any of this.
Because there's two in this area of the film when she like decides to cheat on him and stuff. There's a prolonged shot of her like looking directly into the camera.
Mm-hmm.
I think right before it happens.
Yeah.
That's her.
What do you make of that?
Like only close up that she gets in the movie.
I think that's her like deciding like fuck it, I'm all in on my bullshit.
Yeah, because she's not smiling at all in that shot, no. And it's about like with the child and Harry and everything, and she's just not. She's not happy,
Sorry, go ahead.
No. Go for it.
Like any of the shots you get with Harry, like at the end when Harry's walking with June, he sees himself in the mirror, he smiles, like, and then any of the other times you get those fadeaway black shots, Harry's happy and stuff, and then no, Monica's shots like that just showcase this downtrodden face.
In some way, I do not have the language, the academic language to express what I want to say here, so bear with me as I fumble through it. But I think in some way that takes you out of the movie in a very intentional way. And I think that's Bergman on a meta level commenting on her as a female cinematic character and her not being an ideal woman or a versional character, as the gaze of the character very much turns to the audience in that moment, like confrontationally,
Bergman challenges your thoughts and like emotions,
because this is challenging storytelling conventions in the first place. So he's doing the same thing cinematographically.
It's a word.
Before the tropes were even set, fucking crazy.
But you could argue it's set somewhat in, I mean, again, you have Romeo and Juliet as a precedent for this, although they're kind of stupid too. That's this was
like several years before Rebel Without a Cause. That's crazy.
Yeah. This was before Romeo and Juliet. This was before Romeo plus Juliet, man.
And she's like,
Romeo plus Juliet, that's a podcast right there.
And he gets he gets fed up and he fucking slaps the shit out of her, dude.
Yeah, that's what's fucked up. He repeats. We never see his father be abusive, but he had no mother figure, which also
exactly means what she was trying to escape in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. It crumbles down, like everything. By the end of it, everything that they were trying to get away from is what they end up in, and that just hits. It hits.
There's a fatalism to it. I mean, you can't.
I mean, they did it, or she did it to herself. I mean,
yeah, she's like lying around saying like, "Oh, I need to have my young years and this and that," and it's like, well,
And then she spends the rent money on a new outfit. Too.
Yeah, fucking A, dude, that's fucking horrible.
Which we don't even see. So
yeah.
Incredible. Yeah, costuming couldn't allow it.
And that's out of pocket.
No, you can't. You can't escape your class.
And then it just keeps spiraling, man. She fucking just dips out, leaves. Like, how selfish can you be?
There's plenty of mothers that do that.
The movie ends with him having to sell all of his shit. And
for like $10 basically.
Yeah, and like walks away with like the child. Like, what the fuck, dude? This movie starts as like a fun teen summer romance. That's why I love it so much. It's like, I wish like more movies had balls like this.
Do you wish Adventureland had ended like this?
No, but what I'm saying
could have been just as good.
If this movie was remade today, shot for shot, and people didn't know what it was, and it was released by A24, people would call it innovative. They would call it innovative and like fresh and awesome.
I think they still would in some ways. Let me ask you this: what do you think are the most accurate depictions of teenage romance in cinema? The most accurate, true to life of teenage romance.
Accurate.
Because I don't even know. I can't even think of things. I can't even think.
Lilo and Stitch.
It's the scene where
I know what you're about to say.
No, you don't. What am I about to say?
Were they on the escalators in Superbad?
No, I was gonna say actually before that, it's when Seth tries to talk to Jules and he's like drunk as fuck. Like he's like, you're drunk, I'm drunk, and she's like, what is drunk having to be doing? And he's like fumbling through his words.
Yeah. That's pretty, I would say that but specifically, I would say Superbad's the most realistic of the lot, but specifically of teen romance.
I like Grand Budapest Hotel.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
That's not realistic though. That's like a fantasy.
Yeah, but like the way that Saoirse Ronan and what's his name? Is it Q or whatever? Like the way that they meet, and she just works in a little bakery shop.
Yeah, but it's like very like stylized.
Well, the movie itself is.
I know, but like it's just not, to me, it's like real. It's like that's like
Maybe you
old
lost
world.
the magic in your
That's
life.
like
and you
old
don't
world.
see
Like,
anything
hi, we're
magically.
both young. We both like each other. Let's get married. Kind
Yeah.
of like old world sentiment.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think
is
of like a more contemporary, like,
more, but also more realistic. Also,
more realistic.
How
Yeah.
many teen movies have there been in the past few years?
A lot.
Not many.
Nah.
Not another teen movie.
Not.
I don't know. I don't know
Not
how
as
many
much
teen
as
movies there
like
are
the
anymore.
2000s.
Book Smart, but that's
No.
not a romance, which I haven't actually seen that.
Okay. There's not. It's not romance, but there's a scene in Book Smart. My favorite scene.
Book Smart is great.
In like one of my favorite scenes of like the last decade, and it's when I can't even remember the character's name. I only saw it once in theaters, but it's the main chick, the lesbian, not Jonah Hill's sister,
Beanie Feldstein. You're
but
talking about
the
Caitlin.
lesbian woman, girl.
And what happens?
She's finally got the courage to like talk to this girl at this party, and like it's this beautiful scene of her like feeling herself and like not feeling scared to be like jumping in the pool in like a bathing suit or whatever, and she like dives in and it's all slow, and like she comes up and like she sees this girl talking to someone else, and like it just like hits her, and like it makes you sick to your stomach. And you can tell in that scene in Book Smart, like this is like a centerpiece scene that like this director has been thinking about for a long ass time, the way it's like directed and the movement and everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of the way characters talk to each other and like try to do romance in Book Smart is very realistic, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, but like straight up, just like two characters in love, I'm having a lot of trouble.
I'm having a lot of trouble thinking of it, and I've spent more time on this, but I think that proves my point.
Yeah.
Of how 50, 60 almost years later, after this movie, we're still struggling. I mean, hell, we're still struggling to show realistic adult relationships in movies, teen relationships in movies. They're almost non-existent, and because they're such puffs of smoke, such flames, so ephemeral. We never see the entire relationship. We never see them break up, or we never see them, or if they break up, they get back together. You don't see the arc of a relationship in teens like this.
Right. Well, this is all just an elaborate propaganda film to ward teens away from teen sex.
Yeah, dude, this is a giant abstinence. Here's the thing. They should have shown this in Arkansas sex ed.
Yeah.
Or the crap they showed us.
I don't know. I feel like the people we have around here wouldn't understand it anyway.
No, they'd be like, wait, I have to read during this movie? I hate that.
Yeah.
Not only that, they just have to be like, well, she's hot and I like the summer, so let's go.
Stupid.
I almost want to like make a short film that's like in the way that like they're watching this American movie and they're like, and she's like influenced by it and stuff. I'd like to make a film where like two teens are watching Summer with Monika being little artsy fartsy teens, and they're inspired by that and go off and do some stupid shit because of it, and missing
And then
the
they break
message,
up.
miss the
Yeah.
message of the movie and shit.
Because dumb American teenagers. Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
fun.
Dumb
Yeah.
Americans. Am I right? America bad. America bad. Europe good. Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right, fellas?
Hey, while you're
Right.
over there, go to
We have
Sweden
a
and tell me how it
constitutional
doesn't.
crisis in Spain right now. Am I right, fellas?
Yeah, what?
Righto, boyo.
The state of alarm was declared unconstitutional by the highest court. Right? America bad. Anything else on this movie?
Anyway, that brings us to the end of another episode of the Harbor Podcast. Next week we'll be talking about Dazed and Confused, the ultimate hangout film. So look forward to that. In the meantime, go watch some more Bergman. I need to. I still haven't seen Wild Strawberries.
It's great. I like it a
Shit,
lot.
man. But yeah, I hope y'all are having a good summer. Thanks for watching.